I don't know what to call him, whether he's the keeper of ZiPS, the ZiPS forecasting model, whether that is his Frankenstein. I don't know how to relay this. So he can help me out. How you doing, sir? Good to talk to you. Happy holidays.
I'm doing well. Happy holidays to yourself. I'm the keeper of ZiPS when people like the projection. When not, I'm just kind of I'm a loose associate in those cases. Like, don't get mad at me.
Well, can I start with something? This will make you chuckle, I think. And I'm just having fun here. I'm not making fun of fans. I'm just having fun because there had been a rather vehement dislike of Matt Carpenter his last a year and a half as a Cardinal. Maybe not personally, but just he wasn't very good, and he probably got too many at bats, and you know how it gets. So when you published, as you did last week, I believe, the Cardinals ZiPS projections for 2022, you still had Matt Carpenter on the list. But the thing of it is, it's like an all-inclusive list. It's not. But I'm telling you, there was a little panic. It's like, well, what is he doing on there? So, but I bet you get that a lot. But what is your reasoning for just to explain to listeners, because I'm going to tell them where to go to find the Cardinals projections, but just to eliminate some confusion in advance. Like, how do you go about the fact when you decide who to run projections on the names that go on that list?
Generally, I project everybody with their most recent team. We're doing these midwinter, and there are going to be a lot more moves. Hopefully, when a collective bargaining agreement is actually signed. But it tends to be useful. I also project retired players who are injured and not going to play, people who have gone to Japan or Korea, because it's interesting to see. And if you're going to think, okay, can Matt Carpenter participate even in as a small role player? It seems the logical place to look. So I guess on some level you can say, oh, well, I'm glad that projection isn't on the team anymore because, yeah, the computer pretty much thinks that Carpenter's about done at this point. It's sad. I mean, nobody has the best ending because time always wins. But, I try to get everybody in the upper minors, everyone who has a reasonable chance of a projection that's actually useful. I don't like to do, projections for college players right after coming out of college because you don't really have as much interesting data to work with at a professional level.
Well, explain this to us. When I look at ZiPS, of course, you will always have some of the prospects, not just the ones that everybody knows, but you'll go down a little deeper in terms of what the Cardinals have in their system. But for someone who's unfamiliar with the ZiPS projection system, how does ZiPS know? I like to talk about ZiPS as if it's like a living entity. How does ZiPS know what to put in the stew when you're looking to you're looking to come up with a forecast for, say, Juan Yepez or Nolan Gorman, just to use those two?
Well, one of the good things is that we pretty much have decades of seeing how performance translates when you're moving from AAA to the majors or AA to AAA. Obviously, there's, a lot of uncertainty because we're predicting the future. But even moving from Japan to the U.S., we have a lot of players who have done that now and vice versa. So we do have translations for players, and obviously there's a pretty good error bar, as there are for any player. Even for a player who's, a 10-year veteran in the prime of their career, the error bars are fairly large. But I think that right now, if you look at the Cardinals ZiPS specifically, it was a pretty good set of projections when it comes to win totals for 2022. Very early, of course.
Well, I gotta say, because I know you probably catch either good-natured heat or mean-spirited heat. I don't know when the projections are off a little bit, but the projections are on target a lot. Like the Cardinals in particular, like in your introduction this year, as you're getting into the batters section, you point out that ZiPS has not projected St. Louis outside the 85 to 90 win range in a full season since 2011. So this model seems to have a really good idea every year of what we can expect from the Cardinals. And you wrote, and I laughed at it because I think you wrote the same thing last year, and it's kind of an inside joke because you said, can we just say 87 wins and call it a day? Because that's what it is every year, basically, right?
That's what it feels like. It's also an opportunity to save a little work because, like, I could just do a rerun and have an excuse for it, and make a joke out of it. One of the things about the Cardinals long term is, I don't think anyone will disagree with this necessarily, is it's a very stable organization. It's not a team that relies on, say, a few big performances and then it just fills in a lot of replacement level talent around them. I think of the Angels more that way. They have Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani and then a whole lot of but the Cardinals, they really have players, you know, in the thick of like the MVP or the Cy Young race. I mean, of course it does happen, but you see a lot of above average players across the board from the Cardinals. The depth of the team has usually been one of the strongest in baseball, I think, on the level of the Rays and Dodgers a lot of the time. So it's an easier team to project in that way simply because it's such a stable team. And that's one of the reasons they win so consistently.
Dan Szymborski with us from Fangraphs. What's your Twitter handle, man? Because I misplaced it. I can't find it. So I follow you, of course, but I'm disorganized at times.
Well, it's D Szymborski, and that's DSZYMBORSKI. Luckily, it's as with a similar last name with an S and a Z. You know, it's a lot of letters, and Google can figure that out usually.
Personal question: my Polish ancestors, I mean, you know, going back to my great grandparents who came over, you know, they set up shop, so to speak. They literally did. In East Baltimore, which was a Polish American conclave. What about your folks or your grandparents or great grandparents, whatever, in Baltimore? When they came to America, where did they set up? Like, where was the family based?
I also have a family in East Baltimore. The Polish side of my family is my father's side, and it's funny because sometimes people will send me a question in Polish, and I have to say, you know, I don't think anyone in my family has spoken Polish in about 100 years. I can speak German if you'd like to do that, but it's so we could be related somewhere in the old world.
You know, maybe there was a time where one of your relatives went into my great grandparents' business, and then my grandparents' business. Among other things, they ran a bar, they ran this, they ran that. They had all kinds of little businesses. So, yeah, I'm sure that there was a connection in there somewhere. So if we ever go to Baltimore and we happen to be there at the same time, I'll buy you a beer at the Polish Home Club, one of my old haunts.
Some pit beef. We got to get pit beef. That's the one thing I have so much trouble getting outside of Baltimore.
No, you're right. And gosh, now you're making me hungry, man. But that's good. Hey, you know, to just sort of capsulize the things that you learned in terms of the projections for the Cardinals, where do you think the team will be good? Where do you think it's vulnerable? Are there any areas where you're like, ooh, what do you think?
Well, I do think that the team needs another starting pitcher. If everybody's healthy, you look at the rotation, you see Wainwright, Flaherty, Matz, Miklasz, Hudson. That looks good, especially because Matthew Liberatore got a pretty solid projection. But I think where the Cardinals are, they should be a little more wary of risk. I know that's kind of the idea of bringing in Steven Matz, that he is someone who is a kind of a league average inning eater when he's healthy, doesn't cost a lot. But I think you could use another arm like that just to have additional depth. Maybe someone like Matt Boyd as a possibility. A lot of pictures have already come off the table. Maybe, if they're being a little more ambitious, maybe Carlos Rodon. He would be a lot of fun in St. Louis. I think that the Cardinals will probably end up with the best or nearly the best projection in the NL Central. I haven't completely run the Brewers yet, but I think the Cardinals, just from top to bottom, are a deeper team than Milwaukee. They don't have the same highs in the rotation as Milwaukee does, but I think the Cardinals will once again be an 85-90 win team.
Dan Szymborski with us from Fangraphs. I'm going to run something by you for your opinion. a lot of Cardinals fans, or some, and that's okay because I love baseball talk. They really wanted to push for a shortstop, in one of the bigger price guys. I didn't think that was ever going to happen. I still don't with Carlos Correa. There's still a remaining Trevor Story fixation, and even I'm not so sure about that, given some of the stuff last year, but also the fact that Busch Stadium's a tough yard for right-handed hitters. I mean, it really is. So I'm not sure that that's a match. But the thing, but that's neither here nor there. The reason why the Cardinals are staying put is they seem to really like what they have at shortstop. Paul DeJong, Sosa, but also I think Tommy Edman. If Nolan Gorman's going to play a lot of second base, presumably against right-handed pitchers starting at some point in the season, Tommy Edman will get some turns at shortstop. Do you think, knowing all of that, do you think that the Cardinals are in good shape at shortstop, that they don't need to really go out and sign a Trevor Story for whatever that cost would be?
I think bringing in Trevor Story would be a very kind of un-Cardinal solution, because what they have at shortstop is they do have, as you say, they do have depth there. I mean, people may be down on Paul DeJong because of the season he had offensively. He was below, the Mendoza line, but for a below the Mendoza line season, it was a really solid one. He still played excellent defense. He still, slugged nearly 400. Yeah, you want to see fewer outs, but he wasn't really a major problem for the team. And you look at Trevor Story, and it kind of feels a little bit like Earl Weaver's admonition to better to let go of a player a year too early than a year too late, because Story, was not particularly good in 2021. An 801 OPS in Coors Field isn't great. He's 29 next year. He's not a young player. He's not a young superstar in the way you can say Corey Seager is. I think that if the price was right, you could argue it, but I don't think that there's good value there. And the Cardinals do focus on getting good value, and I don't think Story is it.
I'm with you on that. I just was curious about your opinion on it. So we see that the same way. I'm in the reluctant camp on that one. One other thing, I got a couple things if you still have time. I don't want to keep you too long, but does the ZiPS projection see Harrison Bader, Tyler O'Neill, and Dylan Carlson building on when they were all healthy and together, which was a pretty damn good outfield? Is ZiPS signing off on a second year of that type of productivity and defense?
Well, ZiPS is actually pretty high on Harrison Bader. The defense, of course, is for real, and it does have him as a 750 OPS hitter next year. And for an excellent defensive center fielder, you'll take that anytime. As I say, when the Cardinals are solid from top to bottom, you also have a very high threshold for replacing a player. If the Cardinals, say, had an unlimited budget right now and went into and got whoever they could in free agency, in the lineup at least, I don't think that there is really an opportunity to make a huge upgrade at this point. So I like Bader out there. There's a lot more clarity in the outfield than there was a year ago. You're happy with, O'Neill, Bader, and Carlson in the outfield. There's little question about that. I think that the Cardinals, they're not going to be super busy when the off season hopefully resumes, but I don't think they necessarily need to be. Outside of another starting pitcher and maybe another bullpen arm, I think it's a pretty solidly built team.
Yeah, and you said in writing about the specific forecast that once you get past Gallegos and Reyes, ZiPS isn't too sure about the strength of the bullpen after that.
Yeah, they could use another arm, not necessarily an elite arm, but I think the third, fourth, fifth guys outside the bullpen, outside of the pen in a game, seventh inning guys. There are opportunities to upgrade that still. I don't think the bullpen right now is poor, but it could be improved. Now, I always joke that fans of about 28 teams always hate their bullpen, but I think the Cardinals bullpen right now is okay, but there are things that they do have the opportunity to do.
And I think they're going to swoop in on one good reliever, or maybe two relievers. I think that's probably going to be their point of interest, at least right away. Do you think they need a left-handed bat, given the likelihood that they'll face a very high percentage of their plate appearances? Very high percentage will be against right-handed pitchers, and you scratch Carpenter, you scratch Justin Williams, so that leaves you with Edman, a switch hitter, Carlson, a switch hitter, and not a whole heck of a lot else as far as left-handed bats. Newt Barr, perhaps. Don't know if the small samples justifies any kind of confidence in what he can do, but I know that they like him a lot, and so just wondering about that. Do you think they need a left-handed bat?
I think it's a possibility, but you look at the what's available, and it isn't really a deep free agent market that's still available. I mean, maybe Jock Peterson, but I mean, one thing you can say: do you really call Carpenter and Williams last year as switch hitters? I mean, left-handed hitters. I'm not sure you do, given how they played. Lars Nootbaar, he's not going to be a full-time starter. I know that his initial appearance in the majors got a lot of people excited, but he was never going to be that kind of player. He's a good fourth outfielder. He's left-handed. They probably could use another left-handed bat, but I don't think it's urgent. If Jock Peterson falls into your lap or something, you say, yeah, that's interesting. But there aren't a lot of offensive players out there that really just pop your eyes out. There's a lot of the more interesting players are off the market at this point.
Dan, I can't thank you enough for coming on again, and also just for all your hard work and year round for Fangraphs. And I love Fangraphs. I'm proud and happy to be a member. And when I have Jay Jaffe on or Ben Clemens or you, and I need to have you on more often without being irritating as far as calling you all the time. But people need to support Fangraphs. It is a treasure. It is a online library for baseball information, stats, analysis. The search engine for statistics is just ridiculous as far as how good it is. And we need to make sure that Fangraphs is funded to the point where they can continue to maintain staffing, or as they have done because of support. I sound like I'm doing a PBS commercial. That's okay.
That's fine with me. I like the pledge drive.
Yeah, I'm doing the pledge drive. Because of generous contributions from people like you, Fangraphs will continue to do what they do, but add on to their staff and make it even better. So, but all kidding aside, if you love analysis, you love the numbers, you love to research things on your own, go to fangraphs.com, click on right at the top, talking about support Fangraphs by becoming a member or donating today. I do, so I am not being a hypocrite. I am telling you to do what I have also done. So, Dan, thank you so much, Pally. We'll call you again, before the winter's out.
Well, thanks for having me on as always. And feel free to annoy me as often as you want, because remember, Bernie, you were one of the first writers going on 20 years ago to kind of publicize my work and get it read by a longer audience, or a larger audience. So you can feel free to be as annoying as you want.
Oh, so I sort of have the Szymborski pass, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
Whatever you do is kosher.
Well, listen, man, happy holidays to you. And, just, you got to get some pierogies and some kielbasa in you. You got to do some of that, during the holiday season.
There's I'm not in Baltimore now, but there is actually a burger place near me that makes pierogi and puts them on burgers. Not bad. Interesting. I'm going to have to tell some of my burger guys in St. Louis about that, because they'll put anything on a burger just to try it. Some of the this is a really great burger town now. It's unbelievable. So anyway, good talking food and Polish backgrounds and pierogi with you, my friend, and ZiPS, of course. Thanks so much. Thanks, Bernie.
See, that's our friend Dan Szymborski. He's something else. He is. It's like he's got ZiPS. I got the next time he's on. I have this vision of like ZiPS, like in a corner. It's some big big computer, and it's just like making sounds, and you're looking, and it's just like, what is it doing now? Oh my God! It just came upon the Matt Carpenter projection. He doesn't. Oh, ZiPS doesn't like
what?
that. Yeah, ZiPS is malfunctioning. So no, I mean, it's really funny. That's his Frankenstein, but. People remember when it's off, but boy, is it on point. Pretty good success rate as far as that kind of stuff, especially the Cardinals. But that's what I like about Jim Hewer, because he just, in effect, he declined the compliment about the accuracy when it comes to the Cardinals, right? Because he said, well, they're stable. I mean, you know what to expect from them. There's really not any surprises. It's kind of they have their own model, and so he was saying like, well. It's not really that hard to kind of peg the Cardinals for wins, and he's right if you think about it, right?
There's a lot of truth. There's consistency there, right? And sometimes that consistency is what is it's a bad thing for them because Cardinals, well, they're not even trying. They're just doing
it's the same good thing. And it's bad, right?
Yeah. He's like, oh, you're winning, but you go, yeah, they've been doing the same thing for years now. It's no fun anymore.
I'm telling you, it's an interesting thing because, all of our kidding aside, the kidding leads to a legitimate point, which is, their consistency is a blessing and a curse. It's tough to think of something being both.
Yes.
But if you think about it, we know this for a fact. This is not an opinion. Along there with the Yankees and the Dodgers, and let's remind everyone, they spend tons more money than the Cardinals do. But those are basically the three most consistent franchises in terms of winning. And I'm talking about regular season, but also making the playoffs. Three most consistent franchises in baseball. And so you can count. That's a rare thing to be able to count on a team to be competitive and have a winning record. And to push their win total, up enough to where they get in the playoffs on a regular basis. However, to me, the dare, my dare to them, or my challenge to them is like, instead of calibrating for 90 wins, why don't you calibrate for 95? Why don't you go for 98?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just, so it is a blessing and a curse. And if people who just want to dismiss the consistency, that's just stupid. I'm sorry, my friends. I mean, people can call me stupid when I think things that are just boneheaded. I take no offense to that. But for people to act like that's nothing, to be competitive every single year, I mean, it's just very ignorant about the way the rest of baseball is, except for a couple other teams. And I don't know what to say. That's the one thing where I become kind of fussy, because I do not take their consistency for granted. No one should take it for granted, but it's totally fair. I do it, and I think everyone else should do it, is to just push them and challenge them instead of that's what I call them, the calibrating Cardinals. Instead of calibrating for 90, let's try to shoot for close to 98 or something. I mean, let's get to 95, right?
Yeah,
that's all.
I'm there with you.
It's win a division title.
As you're having this conversation, it just occurred to me, the Cardinals are what the Pittsburgh Steelers are.
They are.
We just keep doing what we're doing, and you kind of go, yeah, but they're the Steelers, and they're not going to win the Super Bowl, but they're there, and not necessarily this year. I think they're in some trouble in the years to come. They got to get a quarterback soon, but what they have been over the last 15, 20 years is, yeah, they're good. They're there. They're in the playoffs. They're not going to win it, but they're there. And the Cardinals have kind of been that way lately. Yeah,
Waino is Ben Roethlisberger, except Big Ben. Waino has aged much better in his job as quarterback of the Cardinals pitching staff compared to Big Ben. But Big Ben is still a guy you respect. He's we were watching him yesterday. I was sad though. I mean, they can't score in the first half like ever. But no, I like the analogy, and I just there's only two ways right now as we sit here today, right? The Cardinals can win a World Series. They got to get in to the postseason tournament, and they can win a World Series, or let's just say get to the World Series, because at that point, all of it's a coin flip just about. But at that point, it becomes just, who can get to 4 first. Sometimes the best team doesn't win. That's just how baseball goes. Mm-hmm. But you either win the thing, if you can get in, you either win the thing by catching, the proverbial lightning in a bottle, or you win it because you took the time, you spent the money, you were resourceful enough to strengthen your team to make it more viable and more likely to have a deep postseason run. You can never guarantee a deep postseason run. You can spend all the money in civilization. It doesn't mean you're guaranteed to make the playoffs and go on a deep run. But it's common sense. If you have more options on your bench, you have more versatility, left-handed, right-handed, you have a deep bullpen, you have maybe you can find a way to add like a really strong number 2 starter or number 1 starter. I mean, if you just adjust the roster and just bring in a couple of true impact, an arm, let's say, and a bat, let's say, well, you have at least given yourself a much better chance of going on that run, even though, again, it's never guaranteed. Some people think it is. I don't know why. It's like, well, they won 100 games. They got to win it all. No, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. The 2004 Cardinals ran into I'm not into this whole team of destiny thing, but the Cardinals team that won 105 games, they ran into something that was just beyond their power to do anything about. I mean, no one was going to beat the Red Sox. No one.
No, that's true.
It's like, well, they're a better team than the Red Sox during the regular season. Yeah, it wasn't the regular season. Postseason's a different season. And there is something magical and crazy. Just ask the 2011 Cardinals and the 2006 Cardinals. There's something sometimes about baseball that's magical and it's crazy because you basically on paper have no business winning the World Series, but you up and do it anyway. So St. Louis has been on the other side of that, where the Cardinals in 2004 ran up against this just crazy thing that happened with the Red Sox coming down from 0-3 to win the ALCS, and nothing was going to stop them after that. But the Cardinals have been the team that kind of dumps everything over and creates havoc and wins the World Series that most people thought would go to the other team. Baseball's nuts in October, and people need to accept that.
Oh, to your point, when you started here with, being able to adjust and add, I'll just throw names out there and you'll see what I mean. Jorge Soler, Adam Duvall, Eddie Rosario, Jock Peterson, all guys inquired as the season went on. Able to adjust, and if it wasn't for those guys, the Atlanta Braves wouldn't be world champions.
Yeah, amen. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And the Braves are a good example. They did both. They adjusted, right?
Yep.
They did, very much so, to their front office credit. But they also got lucky to an extent with some of those relievers. And I'm not belittling or demeaning a team that gets lucky, because you get lucky by taking chances and looking for talent and looking to add people. Well, heck, look at Lester and Happ and LeBlanc last year. When the Cardinals finally tried, no, these weren't big, bold moves. This wasn't a trade for Max Scherzer. I'm not saying it's the same thing. But Lester and Happ and LeBlanc, to me, it started there. If they're not part of this for the stretch, the Cardinals aren't in the playoffs. Simple as that. So my hope is that the Cardinals learn something from their own actions. Good and bad. See, this is good. I'm thinking of different topics now. No. I hope that they learned from their actions in 2021. Actions as of inaction in the winter to upgrade the depth with the pitching staff, especially the starting pitching. Inaction cost them dearly and put them out of the NL Central race and almost shoved them out of the wild card race, but then they took action, and they weren't like blockbuster, news. You and I and ESPN and everyone else is like, well, what are they doing? Lester's 80 years old, Happ's like 85. What are they doing? Well, sometimes it doesn't seem to make sense, but if you take action and you bring people in and you put them into a race, especially if these guys are good competitors. Sometimes, I don't know if it's luck or it's the fact that it works out better than you thought, even better than they thought. but they took action. They tried to make something happen. So shouldn't they learn from both of those things? I would hope so, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that's part of that process.
Calibrate the 95. That's going to be the motto. Yeah. Let's press down on that gas pedal, and instead of going, I tell you what, instead of going 65, get up to 72. I won't tell anybody.
There you go.
Oh man, oh man, oh man.